Hi guys! Welcome back to my YouTube channel. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Directed by Junie, and I make videos about art and I also make art. So today I wanted to talk about Zola because I feel it's one of those movies that really flew under the radar, especially since it came out in 2020, which was like the year of like everything shutting down. Everybody's overwhelmed by entertainment, so we're getting a lot of entertainment. This happened to be one of the movies I saw with a couple of my roommates in Philly at the time, and it was really good.
She's really good.
I thought, like, for them to have translated a 148 tweet thread into a cohesive narrative, that is an accomplishment in itself. And I'm always amazed by the things that A24 is able to produce because of those reasons.
Oh, those you don't know.
Sis.
Let me know.
Yes, sis.
Zola is an A24 film released in 2020, and it was based off of a tweet thread written by Zola Moon in 2015. Zola is a woman named Isaiah Monet King. She was actually a Detroit waitress and dancer who embarked on a road trip with a girl she had just met in her restaurant. This Odyssean saga follows Zola as she meets a random girl at a restaurant, then they go on this road trip to Miami.
We just met yesterday and you're already trying to take whole trips together?
Where a lot of stuff happens. Chapter 1. Who is Micah Levi? Micah Levi studied at the Purcell School for Young Musicians, gained traction with Machacho and the Shapes, with Mark Pell and Raisa Khan. They wore primary colored shapes on their shirts on tour to avoid following trends, and they also toured in Europe and London, so they're mostly popular overseas. Micah has produced scores for other movies, including Under the Skin, Jackie, and Manos. I remember seeing Manos when I was like a little younger. I don't remember if I liked it or not, but I do remember the soundtrack. That is one thing that stayed with me. The element of sound should not be underestimated. I was reading a Rolling Stone article with Micah in it, and he explained that it's not really online like that, so to have produced a soundtrack that is about a movie that's taken purely from Twitter was like interesting. The approach also is not to be known for a distinct sound, would rather make sounds that interact with the film rather than worrying about the texture of the sound first. Like when you listen to Marvel movies, you can hear like, oh, that might be like Hans Zimmer, that might be Danny Elfman. I feel that this was a very great movie to have written a soundtrack for because Zola is full of colorful characters that act as their own instruments. Chapter 2, visuals within Zola. There are a lot of sequins, there's a lot of hot pink, there's a lot of baby pink, everything you can name that like is just a pop of color to characterize and glamorize the nightclub scene is there. So there's like crazy makeup, there's beautiful mirror shots that add to this grandeur of how a stripper feels on stage. They're supposed to be channeling this alter ego that allows them to move effortlessly while they're performing, and they represent someone's fantasy by making the environment feel surreal and mesmerizing. Micah does this clever thing of including a leitmotif of the harp. That harp plays into that fantasy element because every time we think of harps, we think of, well, for me, I think of Renaissance paintings. I think of cherub angels. I think an otherworldly, ethereal kind of feeling. There's this leitmotif throughout of the harp that heightens this sense of surrealism. And Zola, who is symbolic of glamour, heaven, and bliss, has the harp theme whenever she's on screen, so we're able to like visually identify her. There's also smaller sound effects that convey themes of innocence. We hear childlike instruments like the glockenspiel, we hear the tune from jewelry boxes and toy pianos to fill this sense of innocence. Because again, she's like unaware and she's involving herself in something. She's a pawn in a larger game. When Levi was talking about included these elements on Rolling Stone, said it's probably a good mix of both of those things. It must have all come from that sort of thing, being drawn to sweetness. I definitely think that Zola is supposed to represent that sweetness and that innocence. She doesn't know what she's about to involve herself with, but she's still there and she's along for the ride. Chapter 3, director notes and dialogue. I didn't know this, but directors will talk to their music composers and give them audio inspirations. And the audio inspiration for Zola was sound baths. And I find that really interesting because it's something that emits a certain frequency and is supposed to ground you in the moment. With this kind of movie, you would expect that things are going to be all over the place and that you can't keep up. But Zola brings such a grounded element to this movie, and she's such a reliable narrator that it makes sense that a sound bath would be accompanied by her. The sound bath is basically like Zola's constant and reliable narration. Even though we're going through this crazy sugar rush of what this movie is, her narration keeps us grounded in the moment and lets us know what's happening. There are even moments where she's like, all right, pay attention to this because this is going to be important later. Or even her iconic line at the beginning.
You want to hear a story about how me and this bitch here fell out?
And I just think it's really cool that, opposed to other TV shows or movies where there's an unreliable narrator in a very crazy environment, like Rue in Euphoria, for example, we actually have someone who offers a very refreshing perspective on their experience, and it's because she never lets her judgment get clouded by anybody. When talking about Levi's overall pursuit, mentions the pursuit of having an engrossive psychedelic life, but not in the way of taking a bunch of drugs. Cinema itself is mind expanding, and the grandeur of leaving a movie theater is unlike anything, which I'll agree with that. Sometimes I'll watch movies and be like, wow, that was the best movie I've ever seen. And it'll take a while for it to like really marinate on my mind before I'm like, oh, the movie wasn't that good. I think it was just the fact that I was watching it in IMAX and I was the only one there, and there was one emotional scene that really got to me. Levi speaks to this larger think piece about movie theaters and where they stand in today's society, because with the heightening of streaming services, a lot of people are waiting for movies to come out on streaming platforms so that they can watch it at home, which is fine if you have a surround sound setup. But me, I'm gonna go to the movie theater because I just feel like there's nothing like it. There's nothing like sitting in a room of other people that I don't know, watching something that we can all agree is good. Recently, I went to go see the rescreening of Moonlight for its anniversary, and it was IMAX showing. The first time I saw it, I think I was in college. I watched it on a very small TV. The sound wasn't that good. I was kind of half in, half out watching it. But being able to see it in IMAX where it's in your face and you can hear the ocean lapsing in the background really adds to the experience. I know there was like conversation before about movie theaters becoming obsolete and if they're really that popular anymore. And to that, I have to say, like, if we let movie theaters die, we're letting culture die. You know what I mean? Like, we really have to do our due diligence to keep this alive, because that is a third space for a lot of people. I really enjoyed this movie. For them to be able to turn it into a movie from a 148 Twitter thread is really impressive and amazing to me. So if you guys have the chance to see it, I believe it's on streaming platforms. But overall, I just think it's such an enjoyable watch that you won't regret it. And that's it. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.